Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a um, really fascinating account. It's from a former employee at one of the most, well, ambitious companies around lately.
Yeah, it's generated quite a bit of buzz.
It really has. But just to be clear right up front, this deep dive, it isn't about pinpointing specific people or nailing down exact dates or, getting into the weeds of company headlines.
Hmm.
Our goal here is different. We want to sift through this rich material and pull out the big picture stuff, those universal kind of profound insights that could apply to anyone listening who's trying to build something meaningful.
Exactly. Whether that's a product or a team or maybe just a whole new way of working. And what's so interesting, I think, about this account is that it's way more than just a story about AI research, or just fast product launches. When you really dive in, it acts like this powerful mirror. It reflects the really deep, sometimes difficult trade-offs that any mission-driven organization hits when it's trying to juggle scaling speed, attracting absolutely top-tier talent, and maximizing impact, all at the same time.
That's a tough balancing act.
It is. And these aren't just lessons for, Silicon Valley giants. They're almost blueprints, really, for anyone aiming to build that next breakthrough thing or cultivate a really high-impact team. Doesn't matter the industry.
And a core idea that pops up in this account is this concept of worker ones, people who are described as moving fast, thinking deeply, but also caring widely.
That combination.
So our mission today is basically to unpack all of this. We wanted to pinpoint 5 key things we should probably learn from this experience. And just as importantly, 5 ingrained habits we might seriously need to unlearn.
Yeah, the unlearning is often the harder part.
Absolutely, if we want to grow fast without, completely falling apart or fracturing the whole thing. So let's jump right in, maybe not with a rigid plan, but by trying to understand the sheer power of momentum they describe.
Sounds good.
Okay, so this first insight, it really champions velocity over bureaucracy. Just think for a second about how ideas normally move through big companies.
Oh, yeah.
It often feels like running an obstacle course, doesn't it?
Totally. Ideas get passed from committee to committee. You need endless sign-offs, review boards, often from people who aren't even that close to the actual work being done.
Exactly. But the picture painted in this account,
Yeah,
well, it's radically different.
it really is. What's remarkable is how the source shows this culture where action is immediate, teams basically self-assemble around problems, and permission, it's kind of implied.
Implied permission, wow.
Yeah. Take the example they give of the Codex product. Now, this was a seriously complex AI coding assistant, right? Helping write code.
Right, not a trivial thing.
Not at all. And it was apparently imagined, built, optimized, and launched in just 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
7 weeks, you just don't see multi-quarter stakeholder alignment meetings or those long, drawn-out RFPs, requests for proposal, in that kind of timeline.
No way.
And look, this isn't just speed for the sake of being fast. The source calls it focused urgency. It's a culture that really values shipping over showmanship.
Yeah.
Getting the work out there, tested, used, not just talking about it in endless presentations.
Focused urgency, I like that. And that focus on immediate action, it leads straight into a really crucial unlearning. The roadmap is sacred, but innovation respects no calendar. In so many organizations, that roadmap, it's treated like gospel, isn't it? Like some unchangeable prophecy.
Oh, absolutely. It's sacred, immutable. Sometimes even questioning it feels like you're rocking the boat too much or messing with someone's OKRs.
Right, so how does this experience challenge that really rigid thinking?
Well, connecting back to the bigger picture, the source describes a fundamentally different way of planning. When the author first asked about seeing a roadmap, the answer they got was literally, this doesn't exist.
Just flat out.
Flat out. Their plans seemed to emerge organically from the progress they were making, not the other way around. So some new data came in or a surprising insight popped up.
They could just pivot?
Immediately, yeah. Now, this might sound like chaos to some people, I get that. But it seems rooted in something the source calls philosophical humility.
Philosophical humility. Tell me more about that.
It's this deep recognition that you're basically navigating unknown territory. You don't know exactly what's coming next. So the map, it has to be sketched in pencil. It's a living thing, constantly being updated.
Okay, so wrapping this first pair up, for anyone listening who wants to cultivate that worker one kind of mindset or environment, it sounds like it means building places where decisions happen close to the ground, close to the actual work.
Definitely.
And where speed isn't just chaos, but it's a reflection of, clarity and purpose.
Precisely. It really means being brave enough, maybe, to burn those brittle, overly prescriptive roadmaps.
Huh. Burn the roadmaps.
Oh, yeah, maybe not literally. But replace them with living strategies. Strategies that actively adapt to the signals you're getting from the real world, not just sticking to some rigid structure decided months ago. Planning, in this view, becomes like scaffolding. It supports insight. It enables discovery. It's not a cage that locks down creativity.
Scaffolding, not a cage. Got it. Okay, shifting gears a bit. Our next key learning dives into high-trust autonomy works, and it poses a really interesting question for any company aiming for those big breakthrough results. How does truly treating people like capable adults empower them to build like visionaries?
Yeah, this one's powerful. The account digs into a system where researchers weren't just, handed tasks down a chain. They were given the latitude, the space to operate almost like mini executives.
Mini executives, that's a striking term.
Isn't it? And it wasn't just a nice idea, it sounds like. It was how they actually operated. Launching parallel experiments on their own initiative, leading their own product sprints, actively shaping internal strategy based on the results they were getting, not just based on their job title on an org chart.
So initiative was really rewarded.
It seems so. If a new idea showed real promise, a team would apparently form around it organically, driven by interest, by the potential they saw, not because some VP mandated it.
And what about leadership in that model?
Described as active but not suffocating. You had product managers, the PMs, who were connecting the dots across different efforts, and engineering managers, the EMs, whose role was partly to shield their teams from distractions, let them focus. But this depth of trust, it wasn't accidental. The source calls it fundamental cultural architecture. It had to be designed in.
Baked in from the start, okay?
Right.
And the powerful unlearning that goes with this is command and control isn't control. It's a bottleneck in disguise.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's so common, isn't it? Traditional hierarchies confuse having the authority to make decisions with actually being in control. But what does that really achieve?
Usually it just delays,
Right.
stifled momentum, and eventually people lose that sense of ownership over their work. And what's really eye-opening is how this source just dismantles that whole fallacy. Teams moved incredibly fast, apparently, not because they were being reckless, but because the decision rights sit close to execution.
Close to the people doing the work.
Exactly. Think back to that Codex product we mentioned. Getting that out the door didn't require some massive cross-functional summit or a complicated permission slip from layers of management.
Right.
It just needed, as the source puts it, competence, context, and coordination. It needed a clear runway, and the people building the plane had the authority to actually take off.
Okay, so for you listening, if you're trying to lead or even just operate with this worker one kind of approach, the takeaway seems to be that high performance really starts with high context, making sure people understand the why and low control.
Yeah. High context, low control. That's a great summary.
And autonomy isn't about just being left alone in a corner, right? It's that powerful combination of trust plus having access to a clear purpose, the context you need, and knowing you've got support when you hit roadblocks.
Absolutely. This means actively working to find and dismantle those decision bottlenecks in your own setup. And instead of building complex approval pipelines, focus on cultivating dynamic trust networks.
Trust networks, not approval pipelines.
Exactly. Empower the people at the edges, the ones closest to the problems and the customers, to actually execute. And then hold teams accountable for clarity in their goals and outcomes, not just for rigidly conforming to some pre-baked plan.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move to our third key insight. This one really resonated with me. Experimentation is a virtue. It highlights how simple curiosity, when you channel it right, can lead to genuinely huge impact, not just, tinkering for the sake of it.
It's pretty striking when you read it. So much of what eventually shipped, according to this account, didn't start as some official project on a roadmap. It began life as an experiment. Codex, that coding assistant again, is the prime example. It started as just one of several prototypes someone was playing with.
Floating around?
Yeah, kind of floating around. No one high up assigned it. No executive specifically mandated go build this. It just started showing immense promise on its own.
And then people noticed.
Exactly. And because it showed that promise, a team organically formed, people got excited, rallied around it, and, well, within weeks, they scaled it into something used by hundreds of thousands of developers.
Excellent.
It points to a culture where it's genuinely safe to tinker and prestigious to ship. You don't need a massive 90-slide deck to justify exploring an idea. What you need is the freedom to explore, coupled with the rigor to actually measure what you learn from it.
Freedom and rigor, okay?
Yeah.
And this flows so naturally into the next unlearning. Centralized planning, strategic thinking. We all seen that ritual, right? Senior leaders huddle together every quarter, meticulously map out the future.
Yep, the big strategy offsite.
And then they hand down what often feel like these pre-chewed priorities to the teams on the ground.
Yeah, like, here's your slice of the pie. But if you look closely at this account, it suggests that the really great strategy often bubbles up. It emerges bottom up from the people closest to the work.
So not handed down from on high.
Not necessarily. The most impactful products weren't always the ones with the biggest initial budget or the fanciest launch plan mandated from the top. They were often the ones that organically earned attention because they were solving a real painful problem for users and solving it well.
So strategy becomes less about top-down control.
Exactly, and more about curation. It's less about trying to pick the winners 12 months in advance, which is almost impossible anyway.
Right.
It's more about developing this ability to notice where genuine momentum is building organically, and then having the wisdom and the agility to bet big on it when the time is right.
Okay, so for those worker ones out there, or those trying to build that kind of culture, encourage the tinkering, yes. But make sure that curiosity is always tied back to actionable learning. It's not just about chasing shiny objects.
Tethered to learning, not just novelty.
Give your teams real permission to chase those compelling ideas that pop up because, as the source suggests, sometimes those little side quests can become system upgrades.
I love that phrase. Side quests become system upgrades. It's about shifting your whole mindset from strategic prescription, telling everyone exactly what to do, to strategic detection.
Detection, like sensing.
Yeah, building an organization that's highly sensitive to new signals, both internal and external, and then being incredibly fast to amplify the right kind of noise, the noise that indicates real progress, or new opportunity, or an unmet need.
Fascinating. Okay, this brings us to a really crucial fourth insight. Safety is a shared ethic. This really jumped out. It's not something just pushed off to a separate compliance department somewhere down the hall.
No, not at all. The source makes it sound like it's deeply woven into the very fabric of the organization's culture.
Woven in. How so?
What's compelling is how it depicts safety as just part of the job, intrinsically woven into the fabric of the org. Everyone, from the product teams building features to the individual researchers exploring new models, is expected to take at least some responsibility.
Responsibility for what, specifically?
For thinking about potential misuse or abuse, or even just misinterpretation of the things they're building. And this isn't just like abstract philosophical debate. This safety focus sounds deeply pragmatic.
Pragmatic how?
It zeroes in on real-world risks like political bias, self-harm, or prompt injection, where users try to trick the AI.
Right, the adversarial stuff.
Exactly. Rather than getting lost in purely hypothetical, far-future scenarios. And critically, safety is treated as an engineering problem, not just a PR exercise. It's a core design challenge to be solved, not just something to talk about.
Okay, treating safety as engineering. And the critical unlearning that comes with this is compliance isn't culture. It's the minimum, not the mission.
That's a huge distinction.
Because unfortunately, so many companies do treat safety as just a checkbox, right? Or even worse, as this annoying burden that just slows down innovation.
Yeah, it's seen as friction. But this raises a really important point for all of us to think about. The model described in this source, it reminds us that ethical foresight, thinking ahead about risks, isn't supposed to be a brake pedal that just slows everything down.
What then?
It's genuinely a steering wheel.
Sure.
Their product decisions, it seems, are profoundly shaped not just by how fast can we possibly launch this thing, but also by proactively asking, okay, what could go wrong here? How could this be misused?
Thinking through the downsides up front.
Exactly. And that kind of foresight, that kind of thinking, it doesn't actually impede their progress in the long run. It actively prevents them from launching things they might seriously regret later on.
Okay, so for leaders aiming for that worker one approach, this means really embedding safety as a reflex, making it instinctive throughout the whole organization, not just outsourcing it to one specific department.
Absolutely. Train everyone, involve everyone, get them asking not just the obvious question, will this technical thing work, but also the much harder, much more fundamental question, who might this hurt?
Who might this hurt?
Yeah. And seeing true compassion in this context, not as some kind of delay or obstacle to innovation, but actually as innovation's most powerful safeguard.
Compassion as a safeguard.
Powerful. It really is. So advocate for safety that's community-driven, not just top-down mandated. Actively embed that foresight, that what could go wrong thinking, into every single development sprint. Encourage robust red teaming, where teams deliberately try to break their own stuff to find weaknesses.
Turn the hackers inward, basically.
Kind of. And crucially, don't just slap on a disclaimer at the end and think that fixes everything. Rely on thoughtful design to prevent harm in the first place.
Thoughtful design over disclaimers.
Oh, okay.
And that brings us to our final, fifth, profound learning. Fluid teams build rigid momentum. This really struck me because it's such a contrast to those fixed, almost concrete-like team structures you see in so many places.
Yeah, the ones that feel impossible to change once they're set.
Exactly. Impossible to reconfigure quickly.
Well, the source describes teams that operate much more like, well, the term used is gelatinous organisms.
Gelatinous organisms, okay.
Huh. I know it sounds weird, but think about it. Fluid, incredibly responsive, capable of really rapid reconfiguration when the situation demands it.
Give me an example.
Okay, back to the Codex launch. When they suddenly needed extra support to push it over the line, they didn't wait for the next sprint cycle or go through layers of bureaucratic approvals to reallocate people.
What did they do?
They just got the right people involved the next day, pulled them onto the project immediately. And this remarkable agility, it wasn't born from chaos or lack of structure. It seems it came directly from an absolute clarity of purpose.
Everyone knew the goal.
Exactly. People understood what really mattered for the mission right then. And they weren't confined by rigid job titles or reporting lines. They were aligned by the shared outcomes they were driving towards.
Alignment around outcomes, not titles. And the vital unlearning that goes hand in hand with this, org charts are not maps of value.
Yes. This is such a common trap.
It really is. Traditional businesses often operate like these hidden caste systems disguised as organizational charts, right? Where status and influence seem to flow mainly from your position on the chart rather than from what you actually contribute.
Exactly. But what's so fascinating here is how this model flips that. It clearly demonstrates that value isn't where you sit, it's what you do.
Contribution over position.
Precisely. A talented researcher, based on their work and insights, could seamlessly step up and become a key product shaper. An engineer with a great idea could organically seed and even lead a whole new initiative, regardless of their formal title. Teams didn't seem to operate primarily based on static headcount allocated from above. They operated based on gravitational pull.
Gravitational pull.
Yeah, the natural pull of talent and energy towards the most important, most impactful work that needed doing right now.
Okay, so for those worker ones listening or those aspiring to build that way, maybe think about designing your teams less like rigid marching bands and more like jazz ensembles.
Ooh, I like that analogy. Jazz ensembles, not marching bands.
Where roles are portable, adaptable, not permanent and fixed. And where talent allocation isn't something you just review once a quarter. It should directly reflect the real-time needs and the emerging momentum you're seeing on the ground.
Yeah. Remember the org chart. It's just a skeleton. It provides basic structure, sure, but it's not the nervous system. It's not where the real energy and information flow happens.
Skeleton, not nervous system.
Well, so invest deeply in creating clear mobility pathways. Make it easy for your best talent to move and consistently chase the problems that matter most to the mission, regardless of which box they currently sit in. A title should never, ever be a cage. And a team should never become a silo.
Titles aren't cages. Teams aren't silos. Okay, so wrapping all this up, what's the core message that's woven through this entire deep dive? For me, it really boils down to this. Don't just build faster, build wiser. This unique account, this story, it isn't meant to be a precise roadmap that you just copy and paste into your own company.
No, definitely not.
Instead, think of it more like a powerful mirror, something for you to look into, reflecting principles and ideas that might just elevate your own work, your own team, your own organization.
Precisely. I think the most profound lesson here isn't just about raw speed, although that's part of it. It's really about readiness.
Readiness?
Yeah, readiness. It's about cultivating the right systems, the right culture, and attracting and empowering the kind of people that allow your organization to adapt swiftly when things change, because they always do, without completely unraveling. To move with incredible velocity, yes, but without breaking that essential foundation of trust.
And for those of us really focused on building what we've been calling these worker one ecosystems, cultures where high performance and deep compassion aren't just nice to haves on a poster, but they're absolute non-negotiable foundations.
Yeah, where they coexist.
This means thinking about designing our organizations to move more like forests, maybe, than like factories.
Forests, not factories. Unpack that a bit.
Well, think about it. Deeply rooted in a core purpose, right? Incredibly flexible and adaptable in their form, and, crucially, regenerative by their very design, able to renew themselves.
Rooted, flexible, regenerative. I like that. And maybe this brings us to a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on as we wrap up this deep dive.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
The future doesn't necessarily need more unicorns, those incredibly rare, singular, often quite isolated billion-dollar successes. What it arguably needs more of are ecosystems.
Ecosystems, not just unicorns.
Right. Vibrant, interconnected ecosystems. And these ecosystems, they aren't built by grand, rigid, top-down plans. They're built by people. People who are bold enough to genuinely care about the impact they're having and wise enough to constantly adapt and change along the way.
Bold enough to care, wise enough to change. So take a moment now, reflect on these principles we've discussed. How might some of them apply to your own work, to the teams you lead or the teams you're part of, or even just to your personal projects and pursuits?
Yeah, how can you bring that spirit in?
We really encourage you to think about how you can embody that spirit of a worker one in your own corner of the world building, not just faster, but building wiser.